Well, hello, folks. If you've seen any of my videos, which pretty sure you haven't, uh, you'll know this isn't my usual content. So I'm just trying some new stuff here, and I haven't put out anything in years. So yeah, definitely look it up if you want. But anyway, I've gotten into a lot of reaction videos. Mostly British people reacting to American stuff. The reason that I like these is because it shows you a level of appreciation for my country that, quite frankly, is frowned upon here in the U.S. for some stupid reason. So, seeing the British actually, or other people, show appreciation for our cultures, 50 states, our culture, our everything we built, our military, all that stuff. And one of the big things that they always talk about is how much pride we have in our flags and how much we love our country. Well, I'm not sure if you know about it right now, but a lot of times you'll get called racist in some areas for just flying the American flag. This world has gone so stupid, and just like in England, they can't fly their own flag. Uh, it's just so it's ignorant and stupid, is what it is. Anyway, tyrant, rant over. Uh, anyway, long story short, the biggest thing I've seen is this video here shared, the Star Spangled Banner as you have never heard it. The reason that I have a problem with this is that it tells a story 30 years too late. Uh, I'll let you know what I mean by that here in a second. It's got a lot of information that is wrong or misunderstood. So let's just get into it so I don't sit here talking to you for an entire half-hour video. I don't know how long this is going to be, but anyway. And this is my first time doing a reaction video, so cut me a little bit of slack if you could. Maybe. Okay.
There was a lawyer once. His name was Francis Scott Key. He penned a song that I'm sure you're aware of. You've seen it. It's in most hymnals throughout our churches. It's called the national anthem. It is our song as an American. We go, however, to a ball game. We stand in our church services and we sing the words of that song, and they float over our minds and our lips, and we don't even realize what we're singing. Most of us have memorized it as a child, but we've never really thought about what it means. Let me tell you a story.
Here's our first little thing. It was originally a poem. It wasn't put until music or onto music until the 1930s, I do believe, and became our national anthem. But until then, it was a poem that was meant to be read.
Francis Scott Key was a lawyer in Baltimore. The colonies were engaged in vicious conflict.
All right. What do you see wrong with this picture? He referred to us as the colonies. That is the White House. We were already a country. We weren't colonies of Britain. We were the United States of America at this time. It was during the War of 1812. This particular battle they're going to talk about was in 1914. Francis Scott Key is about... Let me check the notes. He's 35. Back to it.
With the mother country, Britain. Because of this conflict and the protractedness of it, they had accumulated prisoners on both sides. The American colonies had prisoners and the British had prisoners. And the American government initiated a move. They went to the British and they said, let us negotiate for the release of these.
In the War of 1812, we were already on our 4th president. Don't ask me who it was, because I'm in the middle of a video and I forgot to ask. I think it was Buchanan, I'm not sure though. Anyway.
Of these prisoners. They said, we want to send a man out to discuss this with you. They were holding the American prisoners in boats about 1,000 yards offshore. And they said, we want to send a man by the name of Francis Scott Key. He will come out and negotiate to see if we can make a mutual exchange. On the appointed day, in a rowboat, he went out to this boat and he negotiated with the British officials. And they reached a conclusion that men could be exchanged on a one-for-one basis. Francis Scott Key, jubilant with the fact that he'd been successful, went down below in the boats, and what he found was a cargo hold full of humanity, men. And he said, men, I
want to take a second to appreciate how beautiful some of this artwork is. Obviously, I stopped on the one that's full of people stuck in cages, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is beautiful, I think. Just with the advent of photos, we kind of lost something.
Man, I've got news for you tonight. You're free. He said, tonight I have negotiated successfully your return to the colonies. He said, you'll be taken out of this boat, out of this filth, out of your chains.
Again, not
the colonies. As he went back up on board to arrange for their passage to the shore, the admiral came and he said, we have a slight problem. He said, we will still honor our commitment to release these men, but it'll be merely academic after tonight. It won't matter. And Francis Scott Key said, what do you mean? He said, well, Mr. Key, he said, tonight we have laid an ultimatum upon the colonies. Your people will either capitulate and lay down the colors of that flag that you think so much of, or you see that fort right over there, Fort Henry?
All right. Fort McHenry. Named after James McHenry. James McHenry was a founding father. He was a surgeon during the Revolutionary War. He was also our first Secretary of War. That's who this fort is named after.
He said, we're going to remove it from the face of the earth. He said, how are you going to do that? He said, if you will, scan the horizon of the sea. And as he looked, he could see hundreds of little dots. And he said, that's the entire British war fleet.
Okay. The reason I'm laughing, you have to think about what is happening in history at this time. This is during 1812. Or this particular battle is 1814. The reason that they are now showing up with a navy, the British, is because they are done fighting Napoleon now. So now they can push their full attention to the U.S. war. But I want to check the notes on how many ships were there. Because it looks like they had about 600 ships, I think, in 1812 when they were initiated. I'm probably wrong on that. But at this particular battle, there were 19. It was hardly the entire British fleet. It wasn't even a double-digit percentage.
He said all of the gunpowder, all of the armament is being called upon to demolish that fort. It will be here within striking distance in a matter of about 2.5 hours. He said the war is over. These men would be free anyway. He said, you can't shell that fort. He said, that's a large fort. He said, it's full of women and children. He says,
there were about 1,000 military personnel stationed there, not women and children.
He says, it's predominantly not a military fort.
Wrong.
They said, don't worry about it. They said, we've left them a way out. And he said, what's that? He said, do you see that flag way up on the rampart? He said, we have told them that if they will lower that flag, the shelling will stop immediately. And we'll know that they've surrendered, and you'll now be under British rule. Francis Scott Key went down below and told the men what was about to happen. And they said, how many ships? He said, hundreds.
Hundreds of
the
19
ships got
ships.
closer. Francis Scott Key went back up on top and he said, men, I'll shout down to you what's going on as we watch. As twilight began to fall, and as the haze hung over the ocean as it does at sunset, suddenly the British war fleet unleashed. He says the sound was deafening. There were so many guns that there were no reliefs. He said it was absolutely impossible to talk or hear. He said suddenly the sky, although dark, was suddenly lit. And he says from down below, all he could hear the men, the prisoners, saying was, tell us where the flag is. What have they done with the flag? Is the flag still flying over the rampart? Tell us. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into the shelling, every time the bomb would explode and it would be close to the flag, they could see the flag in the illuminated red glare of that bomb, and Francis Scott Key would report down to the men below, it's still up.
The bomb's bursting in.
It's not down. The admiral came and he said, your people are insane. He said, what's the matter with them? He said, don't they understand this is an impossible situation? Francis Scott Key said he remembered what George Washington had said. He said the thing that sets the American Christian apart from all other people in the world is he will die on his feet before he'll live on his knees.
I did not check on that quote. He may have said it.
The admiral said, we have now instructed all of the guns to focus on the rampart to take that flag down. He said, we don't understand something. Our reconnaissance tells us that that flag has been hit directly again and again and again, and yet it's still flying. We don't understand that. But he said, now we're about to bring every gun for the next 3 hours to bear on that point. Francis Scott Key said the barrage was unmerciful. All that he could hear was the men down below praying. The prayer, God, keep that flag flying where we last saw it. The sunrise came. He said there was a heavy mist hanging over the land, but the rampart was tall enough. There stood the flag, completely nondescript, in shreds. The flagpole itself was at a crazy angle, but the flag was still at the top. Francis Scott Key went aboard and immediately went into Fort Henry to see what had happened. And what he'd found had happened was that that flagpole and that flag had suffered repetitious direct hits. And when hit had fallen, but men, fathers, who knew what it meant for that flag to be on the ground, although knowing that all of the British guns were trained on it, walked over and held it up humanly until they died. Their bodies were removed and others took their place. Francis Scott Key said what held that flagpole in place at that unusual angle were patriots' bodies. He penned the song, "Oh, say can you..."
All right. I want to pause here for a second. Battle of Fort McHenry. Yes, people died holding up that flag. However, I don't know how many people were injured during this, but I know how many died. And that was 4 people. Sergeant John Clem, uh, Lieutenant Levi Claggett, and Frederick Hall. I don't have a rank on that guy. And there was one unknown soldier. I guess they didn't get his name written down or something like that. Or maybe something, he was unidentified. I don't know. But anyway, those 4 people gave their lives to keep that flag flying. And multiple others probably gave appendages or something like that.
And you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming. Or the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The debt was demanded. The price, it was paid.
All right. Well, I hope you learned a few things. I'm pretty proud of my country. So this song gives me goosebumps every time we sing it. Every time we look in this deeply like this. It's just, the War of 1812 was a big deal, but not a lot of people know about it because it's called the Forgotten War. Or the Second Revolution or something like that. Anyway, it's called a lot of weird things. But a lot of Americans don't even really know about it. It's kind of a footnote. But it's mainly because that war was a stalemate. Nothing was gained. People died. We did have to rebuild the White House, and I think they had to rebuild all of pretty much DC at that point. But the reason it's such a big deal for the Star Spangled Banner and other things is that, it proves that this 30-year-old new nation that Britain didn't think was going to succeed on its own not only succeeded and thrived, but was actually able to put up a fight. And that was the second time we fought the world's largest empire. You can see why we are very proud of that. Anyway, thank you for watching this. God bless.